What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers. We're doing the early look for UFC Vegas 51, and it's going to be a good card. Luque versus Muhammad. We do have 14 fights on the card. Definitely looking forward to it. Looking forward to another card. I don't think it's going to be able to top last night, but still, 14 fights. I cannot wait to break it down with Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to this card?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, man. I mean, it does at first glance look like a little bit of a dumpster diving card, but we're coming off last night, just an absolutely sick card that was top to bottom, just complete top-notch performances by everybody. Great fights. So, they can't all be 10 out of 10s, but there's 14 fights on this card, and there's some really interesting stylistic matchups. So, I mean, I can't wait to get into it because every card, Brady, it's a chance for us to make some more money, and we got to keep stacking those cash tickets like flapjack. So in order to do that, we got to put in the research. You and I have done that. It's Sunday night. We're ready to go, brother.
Let's go. Yeah, this day flew by. I woke up and started getting the tape right away. 14 fights was a lot, but was able to get everything done. So feeling pretty good, and a couple spots stick out to me. Looking forward to talking it over with you in the chat as well. Let's quickly recap last night. Like I said, it was a banger. We had 12 fights on the card last night. The only thing I did not like, as a man of violence, there were only 3 finishes on the card. But luckily enough, I did have 3 bets on those 3 finishes, but I wish there was 4 because my biggest bet of the night was the Khamzat Chimaev Gilbert Burns fight doesn't go to decision. I had 2.5 units on it, minus 190. I bet that a couple weeks ago, and all week I was saying, man, I'm kicking myself. I wish I would have put more on that, and it ended up going to decision. So that would kind of broke my night there, but was able to hit 1.7 units on Gall Malat fight doesn't go to decision, minus 170. That was good. Volkanovski Korean Zombie fight ends in KO, plus 180, half a unit. That was good. Oleinik wins by submission, plus 165, half a unit. That was good. That got me pumped up. And then I lost a quarter unit on Pichot winning in round 3. And then I lost my parlay, of course. I had the over 2.5 rounds with Sterling Yan, parlayed with the under 2.5 in the Fremd Hernandez. So basically, I needed the Hernandez fight to go under 2.5 or the Burns fight to finish for it to be a winning night, but neither of those happened. Yeah, only 3 finishes. So minus 2.2 units, not terrible, but obviously not great. Kind of kept it light, but yeah, it was a good card. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fights, but just wanted a little more finishes. Weezy, how'd you enjoy the card last night?
I enjoyed it. It was a great card. Great fights. I thought the Torres Dern fight was one of the highest level women's fights that I've seen in a very long time. I loved the way that Tisha was moving her feet and cutting angles, and I loved the way that Dern was just constantly pressuring. And as somebody who had the fight goes to decision bet in that fight, that second round was the most terrifying round I have watched in a long time. And Brady, we always talk about, how over bets take years off your life. Well, man, watching Dern cling to Torres and trying basically 14 different submissions, it was amazing that Tisha got out of all those submissions. That was such a high-level fight. It's a shame that one of them had to lose. I scored it for Torres, but either way, congrats to both of those ladies. That was probably my favorite fight of the night next to the Burns Chimaev fight, which was just insane. It was insane to see Khamzat show off 2 things that we didn't know that he had: 3-round conditioning and a chin. And he handled that step up in competition with total class. What a performance there. The Aljo Sterling fight. I mean, first, props to Aljamain Sterling. He looked fantastic in comparison to his last performance against Peter Yan there. I think he clearly won 2 rounds. One of them could have been a 10-8, but I had Yan clearly winning the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th. Once again, Sal D'Amato strikes right there on, a championship fight. They're buying plane tickets for this guy to get sent to UFC events to judge them. I mean, and there's a lot of bad judging, but Sal is kind of like he's on that Mount Rushmore, of bad UFC judges that we see over and over and over again. And yeah, he struck again last night, but that fight was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And big ups to all the Aljamain Sterling bettors who really looked for some value there, made some good points when it came to the fact that this guy was about even money last time against Yan. So there was value there. And Aljo now with that neck problem healed up, man, he had a great performance. I thought Jan won the fight. I thought it could have been called a draw, but either way, I lost 1.55 units on my Jan 4-5 decision bet, but I won a unit on the Dern Torres going to decision, and I won a unit on Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, which this week was a plus money bet, you guys. Alexei Oleinik getting it done against the human concussion, Jared Vandera. And I told people, I said, he doesn't need to get a takedown. Sometimes he'll just hug you and fall to the ground like a tree that just got chopped down. That's exactly what happened. It looked ugly until he started going for that deep half sweep, and he did it to Derek Lewis, and man, he got on Vandera's back, and unbelievable. Alexei Oleinik, 44 years old, 60 wins in his career, 47 of them by submission, and this one in the very first round, Brady. So I was actually up 0.2 something units. So, I mean, it was a plus day for me, but God, that Peter Yan decision stung bad. But, as long as I didn't lose money, I'm okay with that. And it's on to the next week. We got 14 fights to break down. This Belal Muhammad Vicente Luque main event is going to be fantastic. And guess what, man? That co-main event with a couple of UFC debutantes here coming off the Contender Series, dude, it's such a high-level fight. Baralho against Omar Gadziev. Can't wait for that one. Can't wait to break down all 14 of these fights with you guys. Pub Sports Radio, Sunday night, 6:15 Central Time. It's Stat Diggers, baby. Let's fucking get it.
Let's do it. Yeah, it's always kind of tough coming off a pay-per-view, waking up the next day and taping fights like Chris Barnett, fights like Lena Landsberg. But this is what we do. It's our job, Weezy. We're here every Sunday, and I'm looking forward to it. Weezy, we are doing a new show on Thursdays. You want to talk about that real quick, kind of pump it up a little bit, because I'm really looking forward to doing that again.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the MMA Engine YouTube channel on Thursday nights, we're doing a show called Prop Ability. And this is really a fantastic new idea for a show. It's a prop template that I've built that what it does is it tries to find value in the data. And what each of these prop templates has is the divisional finish rates between 2013 to present for 3-round fights and 5-round fights. And what it does is it's gonna compare the implied probability of the betting lines to the divisional finish rates and to the two fighters' combined wins, losses, and combined wins and losses inside the distance in UFC fights and overall. And basically, it's a data-driven way for us to find lines that are mispriced and have some value in them. The line that was stuck out the most last week on probability was that Dern Torres fight goes to decision, because neither one of these ladies had ever been finished in 7 combined losses. And, Tisha Torres has been to so many decisions that we still found some value in that line going over and going to decision because it was mispriced in comparison to the implied probability of the line. So on Thursday nights, we're going to be doing this show, and we're going to get a unique data-driven look into these over-under and fight goes and fight doesn't go lines, and see if we can find some ways to take some money from these bookies when they make mistakes and fuck up the pricing of lines.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's next level. I cannot wait to do that show again on Thursday. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like. As always, subscribe here to Post Sports Radio. We go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I do want to shout out the chat real quick. We got F. Gorilla, first one in here. Andy dropped the dono saying, giving credit to where credit is due for the grind y'all do for us. Appreciate you, Corella. You're in here every week supporting and donating. We do appreciate that a ton. Thank you so much. See who else we got in the chat. We got Mushroom in the chat. We got Kung Dao Chicken. We got Brandon in the chat as well. Lou Betcha. Shout out to Lou. Matthew, Tony in the chat as well. Go Flamingo. We got Thomas in the chat as well. Sorry, Thomas. Only 3 violent spots last night. Hopefully get more violence this week. Paul in the chat as well. We got Rob in the chat. Who else we got in here? Roy Mellon. What is up, Mellon? How you doing? We got Jay in the chat as well. Justin, DXJC, Snap It, Mark Schillingberg. How you doing, Mark? Jeremiah, see if I missed anybody. DXJC. The chat is just so long. You guys are killing it already, and we just started there. Buffo on the beat as well. Brass Knuckle XX. The General hanging out as well. And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but really do appreciate y'all hanging out. The chat is moving more than usual. So let's get right into it then. So, oh, by the way, Prize Picks, promo code is Pub Sports, new sponsor. Go check it out. Prize Picks is awesome. Great stuff. If not only just MMA, but other sports as well. Again, promo code is going to be Pub Sports on Prize Picks there. Okay. So we will start with the first fight of the night. I'm sure this bout order is going to change around throughout the week as always, but we have Alateng Haley going against Kevin Croom. We have Alateng Haley, 30 years old, 5'5" with a 66-inch reach. Kevin Croom, 34 years old, 5'11", 73-inch reach. So yeah, Kevin Croom's going to be much, much bigger. He's going to have a 6-inch height advantage, and he's also going to have a 7-inch reach advantage as well. We take a look at the last few fights. Alateng Haley did make his debut against Dana Becquerel. After that, he won a split decision against Ryan Benoit. Then he lost a decision to Casey Kenny, showed a lot of toughness in that fight. And then he did, it was a draw against Gustavo Lopez, very close fight there. It was the fight where he grabbed the cage like 10 times in a row, and then the referee took a point, ended up being a draw there. But he is 3-1 in a 1 draw in his last 5 fights. Kevin Croom, he is 3-1 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. He came in against Roosevelt Roberts, and he did win that fight by submission. They turned it into a no contest because he did pop for marijuana. After that, he did go in there against Alex Caceres and then lost that fight by decision. And then after that, he did lose a decision against Brian Kelleher just recent there. So yeah, that should be a very fun fight. Weezy, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, this is an interesting one for sure. I mean, this was the last thing I looked at before I went to bed at like 4:45 in the morning after I had finished up all these stats. And as I was doing all this, data entry from Excel and all this stuff, and I was a little salty. It was late. I was still pissed off about Peter Yan. And I was so angry that I finally changed Kevin Croom's no contest to a win. I'm just calling it a win by sub over fucking Roosevelt Roberts because fuck that. How are you taking a win away from this guy on short notice because he smoked some weed? Total bullshit. So yeah, a lot of people will say that Kevin Croom is 0-2 with a no contest, but when we're looking at Weezy's stats, since I'm the one that does all the work, he's 1-2 with no contest, and he has a submission win over Roosevelt Roberts. So this was the last thing I looked at. Went to bed at like 4:45 in the morning here. But we've got a huge measurables advantage, obviously, for Croom here. But Alateng is 4 years younger than Croom, who's 34, who's 34 years old. The measurables advantage has to go to Croom, 6 inches taller and a 7-inch reach advantage. And obviously in experience as well, as Croom's got 12 more pro fights, 35 more minutes of cage time. He's been a pro for almost 5 years longer than Alateng. But Alateng has 1 more UFC fight and 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Croom is the better finisher, having finished 77% of his 22 pro wins inside the distance, while Alateng has a 50% finish rate in his 14 professional wins. Both of these guys have been finished in at least 50% of their pro losses. 12 of their 22 combined losses have been inside the distance. When it comes to the striking, Brady, neither one of these guys has good UFC striking metrics. Alateng has a negative 2.35 significant strike differential per minute, and neither guy lands at a rate higher than 34%. Croom, while having a better significant strike ratio, has been knocked down once in 3 fights and has a sub 42% striking defense, while Alateng has a 58% striking defense, and he's never been knocked down in 4 UFC fights. When it comes to the grappling, Alateng's grappling metrics are way better than Croom's thus far in the UFC. However, it clearly looks like Alateng prefers to keep the fight standing. 84% of his 4 UFC fights have taken place at striking range. Croom's fights have taken place in control time positions about 63% of the time in a 3-fight sample size. But Croom has only completed 1 of his 18 takedown attempts, and he has 30% takedown defense himself. So with that being said, even though his opponents have out-takedowned him at a 7-to-1 ratio, Croom has only been out-controlled by 4% in 3 fights. So he's kind of efficient in the grappling exchanges. With the strength of schedule, Croom is a better UFC strength to schedule metrics so far, having a better overall ratio and win ratio. He's fighting, beating, and losing to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition. So it's kind of an interesting fight. We've seen Alateng use some wrestling to win minutes before. In particular, that we have to look at the Batgarel fight, where he got some takedowns late in the third round in that fight. And then Croom is just huge, man. I mean, he looked huge at 145 when he was fighting Kelleher up there. Looked way bigger than him. I couldn't believe it. So, this is an interesting fight. What do you got for this one, Brady?
Yeah, this is a close fight. So I guess the things that stick out to me is going to be, first of all, the tail of the tape. Kevin Croom is much, much bigger than Alateng Heli. And I guess the one thing I don't like about Alateng Heli is going to be the lack of volume. You take a look at his 4 UFC fights thus far. Like in a win against Danaa Batgarel, he landed 36 strikes in 3 rounds. And I personally did score that fight for Danaa. It was very close. But, in the first round, Danaa outlanded Alateng Heli 21-14. That fight stayed standing the entire round. In the next round, Danaa outlanded Alateng Heli 31-11. The fight stayed standing the entire round. And then the third round comes around. Alateng Heli does take down Danaa Batgarel and controls him for about 3 minutes, takes him down 3 times. So, so low volume, but he is very powerful. He does hit very hard. And on top of that, Kevin Croom is very hittable. So, this is a close fight. You have the height, the reach of Kevin Croom. And what I also like about Croom is going to be the fact that he's dangerous everywhere. On the feet, he's very awkward. He has a lot of tools on the feet. He's going to be throwing more volume. But where he really wants to fight is down to the mat. So I don't know if he's going to be able to take down Alateng Heli. I kind of lean towards no. But I think if this fight does hit the mat, Kevin Croom is going to be very comfortable there. I don't like the cardio of Kevin Croom. He has slowed down in a couple fights. And I don't know if he finishes Alateng Heli early. So I think it's going to be a close fight. I think I'm going to slightly lean with Croom here, just based off the height, the reach, the volume. But it's a close one. I like that Croom's training at a Glory Man Fitness. Alateng Heli's training at a Fight Ready. But I do slightly edge the dog here in Croom, and he's a pretty big dog. It looks like I'm on the wrong thing. It looks like Kevin Croom is around plus 155, and Alateng Heli is minus 180. And it doesn't make much sense to me. I think Croom's going to be the more busier fighter. I think he's going to be landing more. I guess Alateng Heli has a path to victory in terms of taking down Croom and controlling him. But like I said, Croom's going to be very comfortable off his back. So I lean towards the dog. This is not a fight I really don't want to bet, but I do like the plus 155 on Croom, if anything. The fight goes to decision, minus 165. The fight doesn't go, it's plus 125. I don't know. I probably see this going to decision. So it's a fight I'm going to stay back and probably not bet. What do you think about this one, Weezy?
Yeah, same thing with me. It's weird because the metrics are bad. Neither one of these guys could hit water if they fell out of a boat. They're both below 34% in the striking accuracy. And, Croom's super easy to take down. So it looks like if Alateng doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he might be able to win some minutes on the ground. But that really hasn't been what he's done on the aggregate. 60 minutes of cage time, but only 6 minutes of control time on 7 takedowns that he's gotten. And does he want to be on the ground with Croom? Because it's clear that Croom wants the fight there. His fights have been taking place, in control time positions about 63% of the time. So this is a hard one for me to pick. I think it's really going to come down to fight IQ and who has the better game plan, but this is a stay away from me right now.
Yeah, it just seems like a 50-50 fight. So in a 50-50 fight, I'd probably take the dog, but it's not one I really want to get overly invested in. Kind of a low-level fight. Not really big on either guy, but we can move on. Should be a good one. Move on to the next fight. We have Istela Nunes going against Sam Hughes. This is one I actually do have kind of a strong take on. We have Istela Nunes, 29 years old, 5'4", with a 66-inch reach. We have Sam Hughes, 29 years old, 5'5", with a 64-inch reach. Sam Hughes, 1-4 in her last 5 fights. She did lose to Vanessa Demopoulos outside the UFC by submission. She made her debut against Tecia Torres, giving Torres her only KO win in her career with that cut stoppage, that weird stoppage. Went back and watched that today, and I don't know why that was stopped. I think the cut was like nowhere near her eye, but she was saying like she couldn't see. So they stopped the fight. Very weird. The next fight, she loses to Luma Lukebuni by decision, and then she loses to Luana Pinheiro by decision as well. Istela Nunes, 3-2 in her last 5 fights. So we talked about her a couple months ago on the show, and she was taking a 2-year layoff. And we did not really know what to expect from Istela Nunes. And honestly, she kind of exceeded my expectations. I really liked her striking. Believe she has a Muay Thai background, and she looked really good in terms of the striking against Ariana Carnelossi. She was able to outstrike her for the most part. The problem in that fight, and what her problem is the takedown defense. She can be taken down. She can be submitted. She was submitted by Angela Lee. She was submitted by Ariana Carnelossi. So I guess the weakness in Nunes' game is going to be that ground game. It's going to be that takedown defense. And I don't know if Sam Hughes is going to be the one to go out there and take down Istela Nunes consistently and submit her or anything like that. So I really do like the striking of Nunes. I like the volume. I like the movement. And Sam Hughes is kind of a walking punching bag, 49% striking defense. I think this fight does primarily stay standing. And I kind of like Nunes just to pick apart a walking punching bag in Sam Hughes for 15 minutes. With that said, Sam Hughes does have some solid grappling. It's just I don't know if she has the wrestling to get it there. So I do like Nunes here. I think we learned a lot about her in her last fight. We learned that her striking is good. I do think she looked a lot better in that last fight than she does if you go back and watch fights, from a couple of years ago. I do think she made improvements over those couple of years off. But it's the takedown defense I would worry about in an Istela Nunes fight. But this is one I don't really think we're going to have to worry about it. So I like Nunes here. I like Nunes by decision. Sam Hughes is very, very tough. But yeah, this should be an interesting fight, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, in the measurables, Hughes has a 1-inch height advantage. Nunes has 2 inches of reach, so a slight edge to Nunes there. And in the experience, Nunes has 17 more minutes of pro cage time, over 8 more years as a pro. However, Hughes has 2 more UFC level fights, over 20 more minutes in the UFC cage, and has been far busier, fighting about 3 times a year, has Sam Hughes. While for Istela, it's about 0.75 times a year. Hughes is also the better finisher with an 80% finish rate compared to 33% for Nunes. In the striking, I like Nunes way more. She's way cleaner, crisper, more powerful. She uses her length well, but has a hard time dealing with pressure. Nunes in a 1-fight sample size has way better striking metrics, passes the eye test in comparison to Hughes' striking. But, we did see Ariane Carnelossi kind of like march down Nunes and make sure that, she actually just spammed takedown attempts, because what we saw was when they were on the feet at striking range that Istela Nunes looks really good, Brady. I mean, in the striking exchanges. So what Carnelossi tried to do was she tried to take her down 12 times in 3 rounds, and it didn't even go the full 15. It went a little under 12 minutes. So basically 7 takedown attempts in 11.67 minutes. So she was absolutely spamming takedown attempts in order to get that fight into the grappling range. And that's where Nunes's soft spot is. However, when we look at Sam Hughes, neither one of these ladies is really adept at getting the fight to the ground. Hughes is going to have to march forward and try to control some clinch exchanges in order to win minutes. But getting takedowns, it's not really her game. I mean, she's 0-3 thus far in the UFC, and she's been taken down 7 times in 12 attempts, 41.67% takedown defense, but still has managed to outcontrol her opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio, 22.1% to 11.05%. And that's because of her ability to win minutes on the cage. The strength of schedule favors Hughes. She's fought Torres, Loma, Pinheiro. She's fought higher level competition than Istela Nunes has. But for me, this is going to come down to whether Nunes can keep it in the center of the cage at striking range, or whether Sam Hughes can pressure her, get the fight to the cage, and win minutes in close. But Nunes is a Muay Thai practitioner, so she'll be comfortable on the cage as well. I have to lean Nunes here. I haven't seen Hughes really kind of walk forward like a zombie and pressure nonstop. She's going to have to do that to be successful here. She's going to have to be much stronger than Istela to be able to hold her up against the cage and win minutes there. And I don't really think she's going to be able to get this fight to the ground. We haven't seen her able to do that yet. So I'm thinking that this is Istela Nunes, and she's going to look really good doing it.
Yeah, like you said, if Hughes does not come forward for 15 minutes, try to press against the cage, take her down. If this is at range, it's Nunes all day. Her striking is very good. We take a look at the line. Nunes opened up -210. went to minus 195, back down to minus 210. And then Sam Hughes is plus 180. The fight goes to decision, minus 245. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 175. I think it does go to decision. I think Nunes does win a decision. Maybe he has some competitive moments, but I think this fight does primarily play outstanding. And at that point, I do think Nunes gets it done. Any thoughts on the line? Any thoughts on the over-under, anything like that?
Well, 4 out of these 6 ladies' combined losses have finished inside the distance. So that's 2/3 of the time. So paying, close to 70% in implied probability for fight goes might be dangerous when, only 1/3 of these ladies' losses have went to decision. And Nunes has some sneaky power. And she's not good on the ground. So even if Hughes does get it to the ground, Hughes has got 3 subs in 5 wins. So maybe she can find something down there. I actually think fight doesn't go to decision. It actually has some value at the current line just because these ladies have been finished quite a few times in their 6 combined losses. So, but other than that, I really do think that this is going to be Nunes's fight. But if Sam fights really smart, if she pressures, if she wins minutes on the cage, she can make this very close.
Yeah, and Hughes is most definitely fighting for her job. She's on a 3-fight losing streak, has just not shown anything at all. So she's going out here fighting for her job. That might give her some motivation. But yeah, I think it's Nunes here, and we'll see what happens with that. So we'll move on to the next fight. We have Jordan Leavitt going against Trey Ogden. We have Leavitt, 26 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Ogden, he is 32 years old, 5'11" with a 71.5-inch reach. Leavitt, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, had a submission win in the first round on the Contender Series. He went in there in his debut and slammed Wyman down and knocked him out. Lost a decision against Claudio Poyas, and then won a submission against Matt Sills in his last fight. As far as Trey Ogden, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So I guess what sticks out to me, like on paper, right? Like Jordan Leavitt, very good submission grappler. On paper, Ogden has been submitted 3 times. And I went back and watched 2 of those 3 fights because only 2 of 3 were available. And, the submission defense is very, very questionable. Ogden is a black belt. I really think he's a phenomenal grappler, actually, offensively. It's just, defensively, there are some concerns. He got submitted in 2019. And then before that, he did get submitted 2 other times. And I think 2 were guillotines and maybe even 3 were guillotines. But regardless, like the submission defense would be something I would worry about here. He is training at Glory MMA and Fitness with James Krause. I do like that. Like I mentioned, he is now a black belt. Not sure when he got that black belt, but he's pretty good. I mean, on the feet, you've got to favor pretty much anybody that Leavitt faces on the feet. And I do favor Ogden on the feet. And then on top of that, I really like the wrestling of Trey Ogden as well. So I think it's a very winnable fight for Ogden, but the one thing is he has been submitted 3 times. So we got submitted by Nick Brown back in 2019, and then he got guillotined twice by Thomas Gifford. And it was really weird. I went and watched the Thomas Gifford fight, and then he kind of shot in for a takedown, got guillotined in 2017, and then they fought again, and then it was the exact same thing. So the fight IQ was kind of questionable. The exact same thing happened. A Thomas Gifford guillotine. So. Again, I like the wrestling of Ogden. I like the striking of Ogden. I think he's going to be able to control, and dictate where this fight takes place. But Leavitt's going to get opportunities. I think if Leavitt wins, I think it's going to be a submission, and I think it's going to be in the first round. Leavitt does slow down as the fight goes on. He was even slowing down in the Matt Sills fight, his last fight, but was able to get a submission in that second round. But I think it's a very, very winnable fight for Trey here. I like Trey quite a bit. And outside of a Leavitt submission, I think Trey just rolls here. So give me Trey. I think he's better everywhere, but Leavitt's dangerous, and he's going to have some opportunities, I think, off his back. Weezy, grappler versus grappler here for the most part. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, this is a really fun fight, man. I'm really looking forward to this one. In the measurables, Leavitt's 6 years younger, but Ogden is slightly taller, has a half-inch reach advantage. In the experience, though, Ogden has 9 more pro fights. He's got 80 more minutes in the pro cage, 2.5 more years as a pro. Leavitt has 4 fights at the UFC level, though. So 40% of his pro career has taken place at the UFC level, while this will be Ogden making his debut. So he's got 26 more minutes in the UFC cage, does Leavitt. And both of these guys are good finishers. They have a 75% combined finish rate in their 26 combined wins. Both of these guys primarily win by submission. I believe Trey Ogden, has 11 submission wins in his career, and Jordan Levitt in his 9 wins, 6 are by sub and 1 is by knockout. So, in 18 combined finishes for these guys, 17 of them are by submission. So it's definitely shaping up to be a grappler versus grappler match. But when you watch the regional scene footage on Ogden, it looks to me like this dude is absolutely comfortable on his feet as well. It's just that his wrestling is good, so he has the ability to get the fights to the ground and win minutes there, and he chooses to do that a lot. And it's clear with his 11 submission victories that he's very comfortable doing that. But in this case, I think he's going to be the much better striker. I mean, from what I've seen on tape, he's far better. He uses his strike up to set up his takedown attempts. And then Levitt's a work in progress on the feet at best. He really isn't dangerous there. He throws a lot of kicks and stuff. He doesn't care if you take him down. But potentially, we could see Trey Ogden use his wrestling in reverse to keep this fight on the feet. And if he's able to do that for 15 minutes, he's going to look very good against Jordan Levitt. But here's the thing about Levitt, right? This guy is clearly a grappler first. His striking is his weak point, but when you look at these 4 UFC fights in 26.7 minutes of cage time, it's almost 76% of Jordan Levitt's fights are taking place in control time positions for or against. So he's very good at making his opponents fight his fight. It's just that Trey Ogden does look to have the kind of skill set that you would need to have in order to beat Jordan Levitt. One of those things is to have good takedown defense and be able to keep the fight standing if you're the better striker here. And Ogden is clearly going to be the better striker. And then number 2, you got to have some conditioning because Jordan's going to push that wrestling heavy game plan, but he doesn't really have the conditioning to push that pace for a full 3 rounds. And Ogden can get takedowns of his own, and that will be easy for him because Jordan Levitt has 0% takedown defense. He's been taken down all 5 times that his opponents have attempted to do so, and he spent 42% of his UFC career being controlled. So it kind of feels like Ogden can win minutes on the feet and he can win minutes on the ground. But like you already mentioned, Brady, that fact that Ogden has been submitted in 3 of his 4 pro losses, that kind of leaves the door wide open there, even though you like Ogden and I like Ogden. Man, you could see Jordan Levitt snatching something up on the ground here as he's lost twice by guillotine and once by rear naked choke, his Trey Ogden. So that's the thing that scares me, but yeah, I could see Ogden winning, with a striking based decision. I could see him maybe even getting a knockout, even though he's never done that before, because he will be the far better striker here. I could see Jordan Levitt getting a submission on the ground in a scramble and getting, position, maybe even getting a leg lock or something. I don't know, but it's a very, very interesting fight. And Ogden is taking this on short notice, and the line is close, dude. So it's a very intriguing fight to break down.
Do you know how short notice he's taking it on?
I just saw that Levitt's previous opponent was supposed to be Victor Martinez, and that line is actually still up on a couple of books. So I think that he's taken this fight on he probably just got this call less than a week ago, I think.
Okay, yeah, I didn't remember that, but now I do remember it. Yeah, so I do remember seeing Martinez there. Yeah, to me, at short notice or not, it just feels like such a winnable fight. It feels like Ogden has multiple paths to victory with the striking, with the takedowns, with the control. And like I said, this guy's a phenomenal grappler. He's really good.
Yeah.
Lots of submissions. I was impressed with his grappling. It's just it seems like he makes a mistake here or there. He gets submitted 3 times. It's something to mention for sure. But I think if Levitt wins, I think it's an early submission. So the money line kind of sticks out to me. And then you could even hedge with a Levitt first round submission, something like that. But I like Ogden here quite a bit. He opened up as a plus 135 dog, actually. He's now minus 134. And then Levitt opened up minus 155, and he's now plus 114. And then we see the over 2.5 is minus 135. The under 2.5 is plus 105. The fight goes to decision, minus 135. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 105. I like Ogden here. I think Levitt's pretty much early sub or bust. And I mean, it's definitely possible. It's on the table. Ogden's been submitted 3 times, and all 3 of those times have been, I think, under a minute and a half each time. So give me Ogden. I could see a finish at some point. I'm kind of more so leaning towards a grinding-based decision or outstriking Levitt for 3 rounds, something like that.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like you said, he's got multiple paths to victory here, but he's got to be careful when this thing does go to the ground, that it goes to the ground on Ogden's conditions, and that his submission defense is on point against somebody as tricky as Jordan Levitt.
Yeah, for sure. So we will see about that. I'm very tempted on Ogden. So what is up, Tony? How you doing? Wrong, pulled it the wrong. There you go, Tony. What's up, Brady Weezy? Love you guys putting in work for all of us. Love all of you guys hanging out. Bo Jackson liking the Jordan Levitt by rear naked choke. I mean, it could definitely happen. This guy's Levitt's submission game is unbelievable. Although Ogden is a black belt, I think it's on the table for sure. But I do like Ogden myself. Let's move in to the next fight. We have the people's main event. We have Chris Barnett going against Martin Buday. We have Barnett, 35 years old, 5'9" with a 74-inch reach. Buday is 30 years old, 6'4" with a 77-inch reach. So I guess the big thing here is, there's a lot of big things here, but the tail of the tape is going to be huge. So Buday, 5 years younger, and he's going to have a massive 7-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage as well. Barnett, he is 3-4-1 in his last 5 fights. He had a submission loss in his debut against Ben Rothwell in the second round. we what? Fat Volante, you caught me off guard there, Weezy.
Dude, I was so salty last night doing this data entry at like 4 a.m. and it just wouldn't end. And like I say, as I was filling out these spreadsheets, I'm usually not this angry, Brady, and I had just had it with so many things. And Fat Volante, that win over Fat Volante was spectacular for Barnett. I truly enjoyed it, but we got to take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, go on, please go on. I interrupted you.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. I'm sure we'll talk about Collier in a couple weeks as well. But Buday, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, and Buday did go out there and get a first round finish against Lorenzo Hood. Knee to the face, ref stepped in. It was over with like a couple seconds left in that first round. But I mean, I was talking to Weezy about this matchup like weeks ago. Like, this line stuck out. It was Buday. He was sitting around like minus 152. I was like, Weezy, this line's not going to be here that much longer. I meant to look into it. Never really got around to it, but the line is, since then been crushed, and for a very good reason, I think. I really like what I see from Buday. I think he's going to have a lot of advantages in this fight. Some of those advantages include, of course, the tail of the tape. This guy is an actual heavyweight, where Barnett is the smallest heavyweight on the roster, probably by like a mile. I think closest to him in height is probably Rosenstruck, right? Rosenstruck's like 5'10", probably. But yeah, we see that he's 5'9". You don't see that too often. So I think tail of the tape is huge. On top of that, I really do like the striking of both guys, actually. But Buday is going to be the more powerful striker. I know Barnett got that spinning wheel kick, but I think that was kind of a one-off. I would be shocked if that happened in this fight here. But I guess the big thing is going to be the takedown defense of Barnett. Thus far in the UFC, he only had to defend 1 takedown, and he did not defend it against Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell got him down and submitted him. Buday, solid wrestling. Buday is a BJJ brown belt. And the one thing I looked for in Buday, because everything checks out for me, the tail of the tape checks out, the striking checks out. I think, when they're in the clinch against the cage, that's going to check out. I really like what Buday was doing in his Contender Series fight. The wrestling checks out for Buday. The grappling checks out. The ground and pound checks out. Everything checks out. The one thing I wanted to see with Buday is going to be the cardio. I tried to find, footage of him getting deeper into fights. A lot of the fights where, first of all, he's won every single fight inside the distance besides one, and I was not able to see that fight. And I think it was like the very first fight of his career. But outside of that, he's finishing guys, and he's finishing them in that first round or early second. He did have a fight go to, I think, like the late second round as well, but was not able to watch that fight. So I guess the one worry or question mark I have with Buday is going to be the cardio. But in the fights I did see that went to the second round, I guess he looked fine. Barnett, I guess we could say the same thing. His cardio is not great in his own right, so I guess I'm worrying about it a little bit too much. I think it's a great spot for Buday here. I don't think Chris Barnett's UFC caliber whatsoever. I think Buday has a legit path to victory in taking Barnett down, and whether it's a submission, whether it's a ground and pound TKO, I think Buday finishes Barnett in that first or second round. The only loss Buday has was against Juan Espino, and Juan Espino was actually not able to finish him. It did go to decision. I would love to see that fight, but I was not able to find that one. But at least I know that, if Juan Espino can't finish this guy, Chris Barnett, I'd be shocked if Chris Barnett could. So give me Buday. I'm actually very tempted to still bet him at this line, although it has moved the last couple of weeks, Weezy.
Yeah, I mean, how awesome would it be if Chris Barnett came out here like Juan Espino and got like 7 takedowns and just absolutely blew everybody's mind? How hilarious would that be? But boy, he would have a hard time doing that because, like you mentioned, the measurables in this particular fight, I mean, they jump off the page, man. Not only is Buday 5 years younger, but he's 7 inches taller. He has a 3-inch reach advantage, so huge advantages there. And in the experience, though, it's Barnett. He's got 19 more professional fights, 140 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got over 6 more years as a pro. Barnett has 1 more UFC level fight. He's boasting a UFC victory over Fat Volante. Both guys are finishing at over a 75% rate, and Barnett has been finished in 4 of his 7 pro losses, while Buday has never been finished, and that was Juan Espino, who's an absolute stud. We know that. When it comes to the striking, I mean, Barnett is flashy on the feet. He's super fun to watch. He's unexpectedly athletic for a fat man. He landed a flashy KO via spinning heel kick over Fat Volante, but both of these guys are showing striking defense that's below 41% right now. So that is not good at this division. But in Buday's case, it's in 4.93 minutes. In Barnett's case, it's 14.5 minutes. Small sample sizes for both guys. Their defense might be better than what they've shown so far. If this goes to the ground, I mean, Buday is going to be so much bigger than this guy, and he's going to have the better top game. Neither one of these guys has really beaten anyone of note, with the exception of, I believe, that our guy Huggy Bear might have a win back in the day over Walt Harris. I'm going to look. Because I remember I was looking, I was like, oh, these guys haven't beaten anyone of note. But if you go way back, he's got a win over Travis View, who's 73-18. And yeah, a win over Walt Harris when Walt was 1-0 back in 2011. So, I mean, like, he does have, like, that is a good win for him. And, there are some guys on the record here that are okay, but really it's mostly regional scene competition that this guy's been knocking out. So, yeah, you really got to like Buday in this spot. Too bad we didn't jump on that train at -150, -160. This looks like a bad matchup. But, Barnett, he's fun to watch, and he's got some really interesting striking techniques. So I could see him, making this a little bit closer than what most people think. But, if Buday does what we've seen him do on the regional scene, he should really be able to use his size, use that size to get the fight to the ground, and then really do work on top and finish this fight inside the distance.
Yeah, if he gets it to the mat, I think it's going to be over. Like, Rothwell had a lot of success in terms of, almost finishing Barnett in that first round, and then he didn't finish him in the first round, ended up finishing him in that second round with a submission there. So, yeah, we take a look at the line. Buday opened up -140. He is currently -225, and Barnett opened up +120. He is currently +190, and the Buday money line is getting steamed as we speak. The over-under, of course, is set at under 1.5. The over 1.5 is +105. The under 1.5 is -135. The fight goes to decision is +325, and the fight doesn't go to decision is -475. I'm kind of looking at Buday straight potentially. I see -200 on DraftKings. I do like that. And then on top of that, maybe a Buday inside the distance. But that's about that all sticks out for me. But I'm actually looking forward to this fight. I think it should be a pretty fun one. Barnett's, like you said, a very fun fighter to watch, although I don't think he's UFC caliber.
Oh, totally. Yeah, but I mean, like, you're UFC caliber if you're fun to watch and you could go in there and put on entertaining fights against some of the lower level guys like Vellante. You know, I mean, I joke around about him, but the reason I call, John Vellante Fat Vellante at the end of his career is because this dude was in incredible shape when he first came into the UFC. Former Hofstra football player, guy's a natural athlete, a stud, and he was around this sport for a very long time. It's just, towards the end, you get sick of cutting weight and, you got a couple fights left on your contract. He showed up for him, got his ass, shaved and went off into the sunset. And, he gave a lot to this sport. But yeah, this is a step up for Barnett now, because this guy Buday is coming into his own, 30 years old. He's got that true heavyweight body. He's just gonna have to watch out for those cheeky flying things that Barnett throws. But I think at the end of the day, Martin Buday gets this one done.
Yep, I am in agreement with that. We'll keep moving on to the next fight. We have Rafa García going against Jesse Ronson. We have García, who is 27 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. Ronson, he is 36 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach as well. García is going to be much younger, 9 years younger, but it's going to be Ronson that's going to have a 3-inch height advantage in this fight. García, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut on short notice against Nasrat Haqparast, lost that fight by decision. Then he loses a fight against Chris Grutzmacher by decision, and then bounces back and wins a decision against Natan Levy. As far as Jesse Ronson, he fought in the UFC back in like 2012, 2013. He did go 0-3 in that span, got cut, and then he did come back against Nicholas Dalby and was able to get I believe it was a submission win, which got turned into a no contest. Weezy, was this marijuana or was this like a PED?
No, I think it was PEDs, and I think that there was a suspension involved, but I'm not absolutely sure. Maybe somebody in the chat can educate us. But yeah, it was turned, and I don't think it was marijuana this time, because I didn't change the no contest to a win. So I think that it was something else. It was PED related, but you can't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure.
I think you're right on that, but yeah, that's a shame because he went out there and he looked really good against Dalby. He dropped him like with the jab, I think, and then submitted him shortly after. But yeah, back into his UFC run. Back in 2013, he lost against Michel Prazeres, got taken down 7 times. He lost against Francisco Trinaldo as well, and then he lost to Kevin Lee. So all 3 of his losses were actually split decisions, very close fights. Yeah. And again, he came back and beat Dalby, but again, no contest overturned there. So, yeah, this is a good fight. Yeah, I like García. I like a lot what he brings to the table. This guy's a very good wrestler. He's a relentless wrestler. He has shot 27 takedowns thus far in 3 fights. I do like that. And the problem with García is going to be the gas tank. He does tend to slow down as the fight goes on. Very disappointing performance in the Chris Grutzmacher fight. This guy kind of went balls to the wall early on. He hurt Grutzmacher, almost finished him. Ended up slowing down as the fight went on, and Grutzmacher was able to take over and land a bunch of shots late and win that decision against him. So I don't like the cardio of García. As far as Ronson, went back and watched a lot of his fights outside the UFC in terms of before, right between where he got cut and then where he came back against Dalby. And he's very dangerous. He has power in his hands. He's a very good grappler. He looks pretty good to me. It's like he's having a career resurgence, but he is 36 years old at this point. He did just pop for PEDs. It's something to mention. This should be like a very, very close fight because you have García, who's going to have very good striking, very good wrestling, especially. And then you're going to have Ronson, who has power in his hands as well. And then Ronson seems like he's a really good grappling game as well. So, yeah, kind of a close fight here. Weezy, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's a good one, man. García is 9 years younger, and Ronson is a southpaw who's 3 inches taller. In the experience, it's Ronson with 18 more professional fights, 210 more minutes in the pro cage, 5 more years as a pro, and 1 more UFC level fight with similar UFC cage time to García. Ronson is also the better finisher, as he's finished 81% of his 21 pro wins inside the distance, 10 by knockout, 7 by submission. So the guy can get it done either way. Very well-rounded. Both guys are durable, having only been finished in 3 of their 12 combined losses. So, fight goes to decision is probably something I would be looking at here. Ronson is known to be a good striker who prefers to keep fights standing. Despite being 0-3 with a no contest in the UFC, he's actually landed more significant strikes per minute than he's absorbed. He has a knockdown. He's never been knocked down, and he has a 59.26% striking defense, which is solid. Garcia's striking metrics are terrible. I mean, he lands 3.53, absorbs 5.47, 35% striking accuracy, 54% striking defense is okay. But when it comes to the grappling, it's García who's done a great job of winning minutes in the grappling exchanges. He's averaging 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. He outcontrols his opponents at better than a 13-to-1 ratio thus far. Ronson, on the other hand, has faced great wrestlers in the UFC and has been outcontrolled at a better than 7-to-1 ratio. So the possibility for García to win minutes with his wrestling is definitely there. And you look at García, he's shown 70% takedown defense in his own right, but he's actually been taken down 3 times. But on those 3 takedowns, he's been controlled for less than 1 minute of cage time. So when García gets taken down, he is very good at getting back up. And he's gotten almost 50% of his takedown attempts, averaging 4 per 15 minutes. Yeah, 27.5% control time. So you like what you see there out of García. But Ronson, without question, has faced a much tougher UFC level competition. We saw that murderer's row that he came through. It was what? Prazeres, Kevin Lee, and who? Trinaldo?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, and all of them split decisions, too. And I think he outstruck 2 out of 3 of those guys. So Ronson had a really rough go. And then, like you say, a lot of regional scene competition. He makes his way back. And I think I remember the reason that I knew it had to be steroids was he finished Thomas Dalby. And Thomas Dalby is what, Brady? Danish. And you're not finishing a Dane unless you are absolutely high on goofballs, because you have to kill them to get them out of there. So that's why I knew Ronson had actually popped for PEDs. But yeah, so it's a really, really compelling fight because Garcia's younger. He could probably win more minutes in the grappling, and we've seen Ronson give up minutes there, but on the feet, man, you got to believe that Ronson's going to be the better, crisper striker here, have the bigger power, have the ability to win minutes there. It's a very compelling fight. I would be interested to know what the line is on this one.
Yeah, it's lined pretty close. We see that García is the slight favorite. He opened up -160, is now -115. And then Ronson opened up +140, is now -105. So moving very close here. I guess I don't know. This is a tough fight to call. I do like the cardio of Ronson. I think that's going to be big here. I do like the striking of Ronson as well. But it's that wrestling I really like of García, and he's going to shoot a lot of takedowns. I do like that. But, if you shoot a lot of takedowns, you don't have the cardio to keep up. How good is that later in the fight? So I think I'm going to slightly lean with Ronson, although he did take PEDs. I don't like that in his last fight. I don't like that, but I do think he's going to have the better cardio. I do think he's going to have the better striking. I think he's very dangerous, but Garcia is going to have his moments. He's going to get takedowns. He's going to get them early and often. It's just I don't know if Garcia can keep it up for 3 rounds is the thing. So give me the guy with the cardio, but this is a very close fight, Weezy.
Yeah, very close fight. And Garcia's I've liked what I've seen out of him thus far in the UFC. He's tough, man. That Natan Levy fight, Levy was really testing his grappling for the full 3 rounds, and García always found a way to win those scrambles and win and get on top. And I was very impressed with it because Levy pushed him for a full 3 rounds, and I felt like his conditioning really held up in that fight. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, but I'm really not seeing a lot of angles that I like thus far. But Ronson's an awesome finisher at 81% in 21 wins, but Garcia's never been finished.
Yeah.
And then Garcia 66% finish rate. Ronson's been finished in 3 of his 10 losses. I don't know if I like the time props. The line is very close. It's hard to know where Ronson's going to be coming off the PEDs. So yeah, man, it feels like a stay away from me.
Yep, I'm going to agree with that. So yeah, somebody in the chat is bringing up a good point here. If I can pull up the comment here, there it is. So Garcia is going up a weight class. I don't trust his gas tank at 155. No way. I trust his gas tank at 170. This fight is at 170, which I just now learned that.
Really? Okay, yeah, because I think Garcia's been at 155 in all 3 fights: Hack Prass, Gretzmacher, and Levy. So That's interesting because Ronson he started off at 155 a long time ago, but now he's up at 170.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's a big jump up in weight there. So I'm curious to see how Garcia does look there. And what is up, Danny? How you doing? Shout out to Danny Betts, my dude. All right. We'll move on to the next fight here. We have Drakkar Klose going against Brandon Jenkins. We have Klose, who is 34 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Brandon Jenkins, 30 years old, 6 foot with a 71-inch reach. Tail the tape advantage going to Brandon Jenkins. He's going to be 4 years younger. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage as well. Drakkar Klose is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a decision loss to David Tamar, a decision win against Lando Venata, Bobby Green, Christos Giagos, and then just recently got knocked out for the first time against Beneil Dariush. As far as Brandon Jenkins, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Rong Zhu and got knocked out in the 3rd round. Kind of a questionable stoppage, but I guess you can't question it too much. Rong Zhu dominated him from start to finish. He made Rong Zhu look very, very good, probably a lot better than he actually is. And this should be a very easy fight for Klose, probably. I mean, Klose is a big favorite. We don't typically see him being a big favorite, and a lot of his fights are very close in the UFC. But you take a look at some of the guys that he is facing and some of the guys that he's beating, and this is honestly probably going to be the easiest fight that Klose has had thus far in his career. I mean, going from guys like Beneil Dariush, Bobby Green, Lando Venata to a guy like Brandon Jenkins, who is just probably not UFC caliber. So I like Klose here. I like the striking. Klose, I think, he's going to have the striking advantage. Brandon Jenkins, he's fun to watch on the feet, but this guy is like so hittable. What is his striking defense in that Rong Zhu fight was 35%, and you could see it. Go back and watch. Like, his hands are down. Rong Zhu is able to pick him apart easily. I see the same thing from Klose, and then on top of that, Brandon Jenkins got taken down 6 times by Rong Zhu. I think Klose can take him down as well. So although Klose is typically in close fights, I feel like this is probably going to be one-sided. What I will say is Klose is not much of a finisher, and Brandon Jenkins does seem like a very tough guy. I think Klose wins just a 30-27, not many problems. Whether it's on the feet, I think he outstrikes him, beats him up, and then I think he could take down Jenkins as well. I think this is a big step up for Jenkins, and this is a massive step down, honestly, for Klose. So I see why Klose is a big favorite here, Weezy.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, Jenkins has the advantage in the measurables here, being 4 years younger, 3 inches taller, 1-inch reach advantage. He's got some nice advantages there. And then we look at the experience, and wow, it's actually Jenkins too, right? More pro experience with 9 more pro fights, almost 70 more minutes in the pro cage, 8 more months as a pro. However, Klose has fought 50% of his pro career at the UFC level, has 6 more UFC fights, and almost 80 more minutes in the UFC cage. So it's Jenkins who's the much better finisher, though sporting an 87% finish rate and 15 career wins, while for Klose, it's only 36%, and he's never finished anybody in the UFC. So, there are some advantages that Jenkins has here. But the striking metrics are way better for Klose. But we don't have much of a sample size for Jenkins. But what we did see out of Jenkins was pitiful, though, against Rong Zhu. He got knocked down. He got wrestle-fucked. He got finished in the 3rd round by a guy who's not looked UFC level outside of that fight. Klose should be able to win minutes in the clinch here. He should be able to win minutes on the ground if he wants to. In grappling, Klose has went to the wrestling quite a bit, having completed 10 takedowns in 7 UFC fights. He's averaging 1.56 takedowns per 15 minutes, out-controlling his opponents 22.5% to 17.2%. And Jenkins lost a ton of minutes on the ground against Zhu. And so if Drakkar doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he can win minutes on the ground here. And the strength of schedule is just all Drakkar Klose. Very impressive level of competition fought for Drakkar in the UFC. And I'm a little bit mad at Jenkins because the way that Zhu looked against Jenkins, I was like, man, this Rong Zhu's, he's going to be the second coming here. And then I bet on Rong Zhu as a big underdog against Bahamondes. And boy, he didn't even look plus 170 in that fight. He looked like he should have been about plus 400. Bahamondes absolutely destroyed him. So yeah, this feels like, it's just hard to see Brandon Jenkins winning this fight outside of a banana peel situation or a big spinning back fist or just something that catches Klose off guard. But, Klose is a guy who's really good at, he's good defensively. He doesn't make dumb mistakes. He will take fights where he's most comfortable and try to win minutes there instead. He doesn't take a lot of chances. And, you watch his career, that Beneil Dariush fight was the outlier. Everything else, he's very thoughtful about how he goes about his business and should be able to win minutes in this particular matchup. It's tailor-made for him. We haven't seen him in a minute, but, still, I'm looking forward to seeing Drakkar get back in there, and I think it's a fairly easy UFC level test for Drakkar Klose.
Yeah, it's been 2 years since Klose has last fought against Dariush, so he did take off the proper amount of time, if not a lot more. But yeah, curious to know why it's been such a long layoff. Like 2 years is a lot, so I'm not sure what happened there. But
well,
yeah,
what happened was he got shoved by Jeremy Stevens and got like a concussion. Yeah. So that was the last time that he was supposed to fight. That's right. And he has tough weight cuts close, so that's why when he got shoved, it's just you're so susceptible right when you cut weight that he was supposed to fight Jeremy Stevens. And look at that. He's going from Jeremy Stevens to Brandon Jenkins. That was the last fight that this dude was supposed to have. Before that, it was Dariush. Before that, it was Yagos. Before that, Bobby Green. He beat Bobby Green. So, I mean, I see why Klose is a big favorite here. It makes sense.
Yeah, they're giving him a pretty softball matchup here, and that's why we see him as a big favorite. Klose opened up minus 260. He is now minus 450, and Brandon Jenkins is plus 220. He's now plus 350. I mean, there's not much you can do at that line, right? But I think Klose wins. I think it's not really that competitive. I mean, like I said, Jenkins is fun to watch. He's exciting. He's going to throw fun shots, all that, but he's so hittable. I think Klose wins this fight more often than not. The fight goes to decision minus 135. The fight doesn't go as minus 105. If anything, I would take a look at the fight goes to decision at minus 135. I don't think Klose is much of a finisher. Klose has not finished a fight thus far in the UFC. And Brandon Jenkins, he is a pretty tough guy. So I'm going to say close decision, and I do like the fight goes to decision as well.
What do we got for the fight goes right now?
Minus 135.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That's a good one.
Yep, I obviously we don't have access to it, of course not, but yeah. But once we do get those over unders out on Bet Online, hopefully something around there, I do like that fight to go, or the over 2.5 as well. All righty, so we'll move on to the next fight. Thank you all so much for hanging out on a Sunday, as always. A lot of people in here. We have 182. So yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. If you guys can all leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We do want to thank you guys. Last week was actually our biggest show ever for UFC 273. So I just want to thank you guys for hanging out each and every Sunday. The show would not be possible with any of you guys not showing up. So next fight we have Lena Landsberg going against Pannie Kianzad. We have Landsberg, 40 years old, 5'7", with a 65-inch reach. We have Kianzad, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 66-inch reach. We probably don't have to take a ton of time on this matchup. I mean, Kianzad is going to be 10 years younger, and Kianzad's also going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Landsberg is now 40 years old. She has not fought in a very long time. Her last fight against Sarah McMahon, she looked horrendous. McMahon was able to take her down consistently. I think she landed like one significant strike in 15 minutes of fight time in that last fight. But, prior to that, she did win a decision against Maisie Chazon. She won a decision against Tanya Evinger. She lost a decision against Yana Kanutsakai and then won a decision against Gina Mazzani. 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Pannie Kianzad, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. A decision win against Rose Clark, Correa, Eubanks, Davis, and then just recently lost a competitive decision against Raquel Pennington. So, yeah, I like Pannie Kianzad here. We'll talk about the money line. It's very, very wide, but I think it's for a good reason. I really do like the striking of Pannie Kianzad. She's going to have a massive striking advantage here, in my opinion. Landsberg striking's not great. She's low volume. She's very, very hittable. Pannie's striking's really good, and it looks like it's getting better and better each and every fight. The one area I would be a little concerned is if Landsberg did get on top of Pannie Kianzad, but I do think Pannie has the takedown defense to keep this standing. I think her ground game is improving as well. I think Pannie keeps us on the feet, and I think she outstrikes Landsberg. I don't really see Landsberg posing much problems, especially off of a pretty long layoff, and especially at now 40 years old. So I like Pannie here quite a bit. We'll talk about the money line, but I think she's a big favorite for a reason here, Weezy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 10 years younger, 1-inch reach advantage, 6 more pro fights, 75 more minutes in the pro cage. She's been a pro for 8 months longer than Lena Landsberg. The UFC experience is very similar. Neither one of these ladies is much of a finisher. 40% for Landsberg, 20% for Kianzad. Lena's been finishing 3 of 5 losses. Kianzad's been finishing 3 of 6 losses. So 6 out of 11 losses inside the distance. So that's something you got to watch out for if you're betting the over in this fight. You know, these ladies have been finished before. But at the UFC level, it's only been 3 of 7. So it's been a little bit less than 50%, but still something you got to keep your eye on if you're thinking of betting, you know, a stop the violence bet here and see that it goes the full 3 rounds. But, you know, Lena's absorbing one more significant strike a minute than she lands. She has a 44% striking defense. Her opponents throw a lot more volume than her. Kianzad throws more volume than her opponents. She lands one more strike than she absorbs per minute. She's got almost 10% better striking defense, which is good. And, you know, Kianzad's fights have taken place at striking range about 60% of the time, while for Landsberg, it's about 25% of the time. So Landsberg, you know, has been in fights that take place primarily on the cage and on the ground, while Kianzad has spent more than 60% of her time at striking range, where I think she'll be much better. The strength of schedule is all Kianzad. The wins are much better for Kianzad. The losses are better. The overall competition is better. She's on a heater right now. She's 10 years younger. She's more experienced. Lena is probably on her way out here, and we haven't even seen Lena Landsberg since the Sarah McMahon loss, and that was over 2 years ago, I think. She wasn't even in my database. So another thing that I was salty about 3:45 in the morning, being like, fuck, I got to enter data for Lena Landsberg because she's not in my database. So, yeah, man, I see why the line is wide. There's a lot of reasons to like Kianzad in this spot.
Yep, for sure. And somebody in the chat brought it up, but these fighters have actually fought before. They fought back in 2012. It was, looks like Penny's third fight, and it was Lena Landsberg's MMA debut. They fought back in 2012. It doesn't show the method, but looks like Penny won that fight. So this is Kianzad versus Landsberg 2.
The rematch that nobody asked for.
Nobody. Not one person has asked for it. I'd be shocked if anybody did. But we do see that we have a big favorite in Penny here. She opened up minus 300. She's now minus 305. And Landsberg opened up plus 250. She is now plus 255. The over 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 350. Under 275. Fight goes to decision minus 300. Fight doesn't go to decision is plus 225. I think Penny wins, but, you know, at minus 300, women's MMA, not really the best idea laying that price. So I'm going to stay away, but Penny should get this done, I think.
I agree, man. I think it should be Penny all day. So, yeah, let's move on to this next one.
Let us do it. We have the next fight. We have Devin Clark going against William Knight. We have Devin Clark, 31 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. William Knight, 34 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. Devin Clark, 3 years younger. Devin Clark, 2-inch height advantage, and a Devin Clark with a 2-inch reach advantage. I guess the big thing here is this fight is going to take place at heavyweight, which both guys are obviously very undersized for the heavyweight division, especially William Knight. William Knight missed weight in his last fight against Christian. I think it was like, wasn't it 13 pounds he missed weight, something crazy like that?
Yeah, it was bad, dude. I think it was a record. I don't think anybody had ever, I mean, he took poor Rafael Alves right out of the record books, who was crying on the scale 10.5 pounds heavy. Well, William Knight took care of that. 13 pounds heavy, man. It was crazy. And
Christian actually accepted the fight. He was like, okay, this guy's a bum. I'm going to accept this fight. And he went out there, and William Knight looked awful. I don't know what was up. Like, was he hurt? You know, they have a bad camp. Like, what was wrong with William Knight? He looked so bad in that fight. But, you know, William Knight, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Alexa Kmar, won by decision. He lost the decision to Da Un Jung. We'll talk more about that fight. I think it's a pretty important one to look at. Knocked out Fabio Charant, won decision against Alonzo Menefield, and then lost that decision against Maxine Grishin at, I think, they moved up to heavyweight or the catchweight there. Devin Clark, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Ryan Spann. Decision win against Daquan Townsend and Alonzo Menefield. Submission loss to Anthony Smith, and a decision loss to Ion Kudalaba. So, yeah, weird fight, heavyweight fight here. I think it is a pretty solid matchup for Devin Clark here, though. You take a look at Devin Clark and, you know, some of the guys he's been fighting, and he's been fighting some very good guys throughout his career. He lost to Anthony Smith, and I want to say he was like a very slight dog in that fight as well. So they were giving him a lot of respect on the money line. He lost to Ian Cutelaba, who's very dangerous, and Cutelaba could not get him out of there, which was very impressive for Devin Clark there. On top of that, he lost to Ryan Spann. On top of that, he lost to Alexander Rakic as well. He lost to Jan Blachowicz. So he's losing to very good guys. And he also has a win against middleweight Jake Collier, Weezy, back in 2017. I actually went back to watch that fight. And Collier looks so much different in that fight. But Devin Clark was able to take down Jake Collier, kind of break him there, and win that decision. And there's some things I do not like about William Knight. The first thing is the whole weight issue. He's moving up to heavyweight. He can't make 205 anymore, I guess. On top of that, his striking defense is some of the worst you'll ever see. It's worse than Priscilla Ketchabeating, sitting at 33%. And this is not like a one-fight sample. This is now at this point like a 7-fight sample, which that's very bad. You'd think it would go up, but no, still 33% striking defense. On top of that, William Knight has a 45% takedown defense. So, on the feet, William Knight, he's explosive. He hits hard, but, Devin Clark has fought plenty of guys that are explosive and hit hard. Ryan Spann's very explosive. He hits hard. Mike Rodriguez hits very hard. Blachowicz hits really hard. Alonzo Menefield hits really hard. Ian Cutelaba hits really hard. He's fought guys that hit really hard. I just don't think that, William Knight's going to have success in terms of stuffing the takedowns. I think Clark's going to go out here, take down William Knight, rinse and repeat. I think Clark's going to have the better cardio. One thing I do like about Clark is that cardio. He uses that cardio as a weapon. I think he takes down William Knight, exploits that 45% takedown defense, and I think he wins a decision here. But if this fight finishes, it's probably Knight knocking out Devin Clark, but I don't think Devin Clark's going to give him many opportunities. So I like Clark here. I like Clark to win by decision. He's relentless with his takedowns. He's going to go for them, and I just don't think William Knight has the best takedown defense or cardio or much of anything outside of, he's an athlete and he's explosive, but really that's about it. So give me Clark here. Kind of a weird fight. I don't know if I want to put money on it, but if I was, it probably would be on the Clark side.
Yeah, so I that's the way I'm leaning too. But William Knight's kind of like one of these fighters that's really hard to handicap. You're not really sure what it is that he's good at, really. But he's 5-2 in the UFC, man, and that's good. He's getting the job done, and but we know what Devin Clark's good at, right, Brady? This guy comes in to wrestle. He's got 62 takedown attempts in 12 fights. He's gotten 22 of them. He's averaging 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's out-controlling his opponents 35.8% to 27%. But he doesn't show great takedown defense either at only 56%. William Knight, he's going out there. He's trying 4 takedown attempts per fight. He's gotten 12 of them. So he's actually getting his takedowns at a better percentage than Clark is. He's getting 2.22 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's getting out-controlled at almost a 3-to-1 ratio, though, and that's a problem because Knight's actually attempting more takedowns than his opponents are. So Knight hasn't been efficient in the grappling exchanges here. Obviously, it's Devin Clark who's fought the better brand of competition here. The wins are similar. The losses are way better for Devin Clark. He's just fought the better guys. But in terms of, who these guys are beating, they both have a win over Menefield, Daquan Townsend for Clark, Fabio Charant, who's 0-4 in the UFC, Alexa Kamer. These are not really particularly impressive wins from either one of these guys. But Devin Clark has a process to his game. We know that he's going to use the wrestling, the conditioning in order to push a pace that breaks his opponent. We don't really know how Knight wins fights. I don't know how he wins this fight outside of landing a big shot. When it comes to the time props, I wouldn't touch them for this fight because I kind of feel like this is either Devin Clark by decision or it's William Knight inside the distance, because William Knight's finished 82% of his 11 wins inside the distance, and Devin Clark has been finished in 5 of his 6 pro losses inside the distance. So either way, I kind of feel like you can stay away from the time props by just betting Clark by decision or Knight inside the distance.
Yep, that's exactly how I see it. I think Clark by decision is the way to go. The over-under is set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is -140. Under 2.5 is +110. I actually like the over 2.5 more than the Clark money line. I would really be shocked if Clark finished Knight, and maybe like a late finish. But I think if Clark does win this fight, it's by decision. So I kind of like Clark. Kind of like Clark by decision. I kind of like that over 2.5. If Knight does win, I think it's going to be some type of knockout, but I don't see Knight going out there and winning much minutes. I think it's going to be a big shot, and it's possible. I mean, this is a heavyweight fight, but I think Clark's going to take him down and rinse and repeat there.
Yeah, and this is Clark's first time at heavyweight too, so that's kind of interesting. I don't know why he's coming up too. I didn't even know. I thought that this was going to be at 205. That's the first time I heard that it was heavyweights when you mentioned it, Brady. So that's interesting. But still, I think I got to go with Devin Clark and the minute winning potential via the wrestling.
Yep, I'm right there with you, and that's weird. I don't know why. Like both these guys are light heavyweights, so the reason it's at heavyweight, I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll have to see. It should be a fun fight. I'm actually curious to see the weigh-ins. I'm curious to see what these guys weigh in at as well. So another thing to look at for Friday. We'll move on to the next fight. We have probably one of the more exciting, probably underrated fights on the card. We have Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos going against Mounir Lazzez. We have dos Santos, 35 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Lazzez, 34 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Lazzez 1 year younger. Lazzez a 2-inch height advantage, and Lazzez is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. Dos Santos, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A submission win against Curtis Millender, a knockout loss against Leach, a decision win against Alexei Koncheko, a decision loss to Muslim Salikov, and then a decision win against Benoit Saint Denis. Weezy, remember that? The Benoit Saint Denis?
I don't. You have to remind me of that fight. I for some reason it's not sticking out at all. Actually, I was watching tape earlier. And I saw Vyacheslav Kisiev in the cage and on some regional scene footage. I almost broke my own TV. So yeah, actually, I do remember that fight.
Yeah, I cannot believe what happened in that fight. Shout out to Kisiev. Hopefully, I never see him again. But yeah, he went out there. He dominated Benoit Saint Denis. One of the most brutal beatdowns you'll see. It should have been stopped like 3 or 4 times, but it did not get stopped. So yeah, but he looked really good. He looked really good. He's 35 years old. He's very well rounded. I'm going against Lazzez here, who's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Abdulrazak Alassane as a pretty decent dog. Won that fight by decision and then get knocked out in the first minute against Warley Alves as a pretty big favorite. So yeah, this is a good fight here. We have 2 very, very good strikers. I think it does primarily stay striking, but dos Santos, I believe, is a black belt in BJJ. I think he has really good grappling. Not the best wrestling in the world, only a 15% takedown accuracy. I think if he does get the fight down to the mat, he can have success. But I think primarily this is going to stay standing, and it's going to be a very, very exciting fight. Both guys, very good strikers. Weezy, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, great striking matchup. This is a good main card fight, and I think it's on the main card, but I guess we'll find out, later on in the week. But yeah, they're both right around 35 years old. It's going to be Lazzez, who's bigger, though, 2 inches taller, 3-inch reach advantage. But it's Zaleski dos Santos, obviously, with a big-time experience advantage here. 18 more professional fights, about 160 more minutes in the pro cage, 3 more years as a pro, 10 more UFC level fights, about 130 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Zaleski dos Santos brings a lot of experience with him here. A 74% finish rate that should be higher due to the fact that Vyacheslav Kisiev, dude, I'll tell you something. If Benoit Saint Denis is eating all of his meals out of a straw by the time he's in his mid-40s, he's going to have Vyacheslav Kisiev to thank for that. And just on a quick thing here, you guys, let's remember something here when we talk about judges' accountability and referees' accountability. When Vyacheslav Kisiev almost got Benoit Saint Denis killed in there, Mark Goddard, who was the head of the officiating crew in that day, escorted Kisiev the fuck out of the arena. So when he was incompetent, they got to get him the fuck out of there. But somehow when Sal D'Amato scores Hermanson Strickland 48-47 Hermanson, he gets to keep, judging championship fights. So I was just wondering, that would be an interesting question to pose to the UFC and the gaming commissions, why referees can be held accountable, but judges can't. But I guess that's because the judges are doing what they're told to do and they're making money for somebody. It's just not me, Brady. But at the striking numbers here, really impressive for both guys. Just 45% striking defense for Lazzez is troubling here. In terms of the grappling, we've seen Mounir win some minutes, man. 4-4 on his takedown attempts. He's out controlling his opponents 31% to 17%. So almost 50% of his fights are taking place in control time positions, which is odd for a striker, but maybe Lazzez is a little more well-rounded than we give him credit for. Well, like you said, Zaleski dos Santos, not great getting takedowns. But even though Zaleski has yielded 19 takedowns in his UFC fights, but he's only gotten 5, his opponents are barely out-controlling him by about 2.5%. So Zaleski's been good keeping fights standing about 75% of the time, and he's been very efficient in the grappling exchanges here. So I don't know if I see Mounir winning minutes against Zaleski dos Santos. And then when it comes to the level of competition, you got to give it to Zaleski dos Santos overall. Better wins, better overall win-loss ratio, but it's Lazzez who's actually fought the slightly more experienced competition. I do like Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos here. I think he looked absolutely fantastic against Benoit Saint-Denis. We haven't seen Lazzez since the Alves fight, so I think it's been over a year, maybe about a year and 3 months at this point since we've seen Mounir in the UFC cage. I got to pick Zaleski dos Santos here based on the strength of schedule, based on the experience, and based on the fact that we've seen him in here against better competition and thriving against that better competition at the UFC level.
Yep, I'm going that way as well. We have dos Santos opening up -125. He's now -180. And Mounir Lazzez opening up +105. He's now +155. The fight goes to decision, -115. The fight doesn't go to decision, is -125. Weezy, I'm kind of terrified to go back and bet a dos Santos violence prop. So I think I just might stay back. And I still have PTSD from that moment.
That's one of the worst beats, if not the worst beat that I've ever had gambling. That and Santos against Guida. When Keith Peterson didn't stop that fight after 58 unanswered strikes, he kept it going. So but that's part of the game that we play, Brady, is sometimes you got to try to analyze the fight right, and then you need to beat the refs and the judges too. It's tough what we do, but that's why we put in so much work, man, so that we can be long-term profitable gamblers.
That is very, very true. Shout out to Keith Peterson. He was looking good yesterday. His voice is so funny. Like, you can tell that this guy parties a lot, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, he definitely smokes with cigarettes. There is no question. Like, that's 100%. And like I've said before on Stat Diggers, I heard I think it was Annex, say that Keith Peterson's the singer in a punk band, and I mean, he's got to be a great singer, right? With that voice. I mean, he was made to be in a punk band. Neck tattoos, cigarettes, judging fights on the weekends. Yeah, Keith Peterson, dude, I want to hang out with that guy. Even though he's fucked me out of money on more than one occasion, I still want to hang out with that dude. He seems like he'd be cool as shit.
Yeah, if you like drinking and smoking cigarettes, then Keith Peterson it could be your buddy for sure. Gaming Wolf saying, "Will the fight go the distance?" I don't know. I mean, I think that it's lined about right. I think pick them. I mean, I don't really have a strong take. Do you have a strong take of the fight going or not going?
Both of these guys are great finishers. 75% finish rate for Santos, 80% finish rate for Lazzez, and they've both been finished 4 out of 7 times in 7 losses for Zaleski and 1 out of 2. So 5 out of 9 combined losses inside the distance. It seems like it's priced correctly here. This is going to be a fun fight.
I think it's one of the more exciting fights on the card for sure. Cannot wait for it. Let's move on to the next fight. We have Pat Sabatini going against TJ Laramie. We have Sabatini, 31 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Laramie, 24 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. So Laramie is going to be 7 years younger, but it's going to be Sabatini that's going to have a 2-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Pat Sabatini, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Tristan Connolly, won a decision there. He submitted Jamal Emmers in the first round, and then he won a decision against Tucker Lutz his last time out. TJ Laramie, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He lost to Derek Minner by submission under a minute in his UFC debut, and I want to say he was like -300 in that fight. But Laramie hoping to bounce back, but they're not doing him any favors going against Pat Sabatini here. So both these guys are really solid wrestlers. Pat Sabatini, this guy's grappling is no joke. Trains out of Renzo Gracie Philly, which is the same camp as Sean Brady, legit black belt in BJJ. This guy's grappling is phenomenal, and I think that's kind of going to be the story of the fight here. I think both guys are good wrestlers, but the grappling is just so much in favor of Sabatini here. The striking, I probably do got to favor Laramie, but Sabatini is working on the striking. It's getting better. It's improving. But I think this fight primarily does play out on the mat, and I think Sabatini is going to have a lot of success here. So Yeah, the line's definitely wide. I think Laramie might be getting counted out a little bit. The guy's still young. He's still improving, but it's really hard to go against Pat Sabatini at this point, Weezy.
It is. He's shown so much, and he's shown such fantastic fight IQ thus far in the UFC. And those are the kind of fighters I absolutely love backing. But when we talk about TJ Laramie, we got to talk about the big hanging chad out there. And that's this kid is only 24 years old, 16 fights at the age of 24 in his 7-year career. And we haven't seen him for a minute. So we always have to, leave that door open for how much of an improvement could this young man have made since we last saw him, since we saw him get caught by a guy that catches just about everybody that he beats, and that's Darrick Minner, a guy with over 20 career wins by submission. So, I'm sure TJ learned from that spot, but like you say, man, now it's, from the frying pan into the fire now, because now it's Pat Sabatini here, and this guy has looked so good in the UFC. He looks so mature and so ready, despite the fact that, he's really only been doing this for, 3 fights in the UFC level. But yeah, 3-0, winning minutes, winning fights, and doing it against pretty decent competition, especially Jamal Emmers. Jamal Emmers is a guy with a very high ceiling, but Jamal Emmers is a guy that we've known and has displayed bad fight IQ in the past. And Pat Sabatini is the exact type of guy who can take advantage. If you show any bad fight IQ, he's going to put you in bad spots. So, both of these guys are experienced. The experience numbers are very close to each other. They're both great finishers. In terms of the striking, Sabatini's going to be the much bigger guy, and he does throw some flashy stuff sometimes. And, in terms of the wrestling, look, Sabatini's out controlling his opponents at about a 6.5-to-1 ratio here. But TJ Laramie's out controlling his opponents in 2 UFC fights, 76.14% to 2%. So, this is another guy who knows how to win minutes on the ground. I mean, Sabatini's fought the better competition thus far, beaten it, and probably is the more mature, complete mixed martial artist at this point. But we can be expecting improvements from TJ. He's already a good wrestler and a guy who does a good job of winning minutes on the ground. And if he gets to the wrestling first and is able to get the fight to the ground and put Pat Sabatini's back there, we could see TJ win minutes. So it's an interesting matchup for me. I'm really looking forward to this because this is 2 high-level wrestler grapplers here going at it.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, like TJ Laramie, I'm actually really impressed with the guy. I think his striking's solid, his wrestling's really solid. If he can come in here with a game plan of stuffing the takedowns of Pat Sabatini, keeping this on the feet, I think he would have a lot of success. It's just, I think Pat Sabatini is a very good wrestler. And on top of that, I think he's absolutely relentless. I kind of thought, Tucker Lutz, who also has a wrestling background, be able to potentially stuff some takedowns of Sabatini, but that wasn't the case. Sabatini was just relentless. If he didn't take him down, he went right back at it and eventually got him down. When he got him down, he had success. So I think, we take a look at the line, and Sabatini is the big favorite. Lots of hype on this guy, and he deserves it. This guy is very good. Minus 240 opened up, now minus 350. There was also a lot of hype on Laramie. Laramie, I want to double check, but Laramie, it doesn't even show up. But I remember him being like minus 300 or something against Darrick Minner, and now he's a big dog against Sabatini. He's now plus 285. The fight goes to decision minus 160. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus 120. The over-under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 175. The under 2.5 is plus 145. Any thoughts on the money line or any of these?
Both of these guys are good finishers here. 75% for Sabatini, 75% as well for Laramie, So, yeah, I like that. 21 of 28 for these guys finishing inside the distance. So I could see a violence bet absolutely paying off here because Sabatini's been finishing in one of his 3 losses by James the Alley Cat Gonzalez, who basically broke his arm. And then Laramie's been finishing 3 of 4 losses. So, we got 2 good finishers, and we got guys that have been finished in 4 of 7 combined losses. So perhaps a look at the under here could be very interesting. But I think that I got to lean Pat Sabatini.
Yeah, and I think Sabatini's sub is most definitely on the table. If he gets him down to the mat, Sabatini's grappling is very, very good. So yeah, fight doesn't go plus money. Sabatini by sub is something else I'm going to be looking out for. But yeah, should be a very fun fight here. Looking forward to this one. I'll move on to a next fight, and we have Mauro Bueno Silva going against Yanan Wu. We have a Silva who is 30 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. When Yanan Wu, 25 years old, 5'8" with a 66-inch reach. We have Wu, who's going to be 5 years younger. She's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. Both have a 66-inch reach. Silva, she has 2-2 and 1 draw in her last 5 fights. A submission win against Jillian Robertson. A decision loss to Marina Moroz. A submission win against Mara Morella Barella. And then a draw against Montana De La Rosa, and then a loss by decision against Manon Fiora. As far as Wu Yanan, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss to Jocelyn Edwards last time out. Before that, a decision loss to Mizuki Inoue, and then before that was a submission win against Lauren Mueller, and before that, I believe, was her debut against Gina Mazzani, where she did lose that fight by decision. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty massive step up in competition for Wu here. Fighting fighters like Inoue, Mueller, and Mazzani. And Mara Bueno Silva, she's actually fought like very, very good competition. I mean, just in her last fight, Manon Fiora, and when she's losing to good fighters, as well as Marina Moroz as well. I guess the one thing I don't like about Silva is that she is a phenomenal grappler, legit black belt in BJJ. She even has like 3 or 4 submissions in the UFC. And the problem with her is she doesn't go for takedowns. She's attempted 0 takedowns in her entire career. And this is a fight where I feel like, if she went for takedowns, I think the sub is there. I think the takedowns are there. I mean, Gina Mazzani went out there and took down Wu like 6 times. I would like to see Silva implement some takedowns in this fight. But if she doesn't, on the feet, I think Wu's going to have the volume, but Silva's very, very dangerous on the feet. She hits very, very hard. She's going to be landing the harder shots. You got to go Silva here. I think if this fight hits the mat any type of way, I think Silva's very live for a submission. I just think she's on another level, and I do like, her on the feet as well. I went back and watched the De La Rosa fight, and she almost killed De La Rosa a couple times. Like, she is so dangerous. She has great knees, elbows, and she really hurts her opponents, and I think she really hurts Wu here. Whether it is by knockout, whether it is by sub, I actually think she's a good chance to finish Wu here. But again, I would like to see Silva go for takedowns here. I think she gets in. If she gets on top of Wu, I think she finishes her there. But yeah, the 0 takedowns kind of concerns me a little bit, but she should run through Wu here. Weezy, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, she should. I don't even know what the hell Yanan Yu is doing here, to be honest with you. The fights that I've seen of her thus far, I just haven't seen anything that I liked. Bueno Silva's very dangerous, but like, look at the metrics. They're not good for either one of them, They're both absorbing more than they land. Their opponents actually both throw more volume than them. Neither one of them has ever landed a knockdown. And then you got a woman in Bueno Silva who's gotten 4% control time and has allowed 42% control time. Never even shot a takedown. Not even shot one. And that's in 6 fights. So that's ridiculous. And I don't know if Bootsy's sick, but if he thinks that Wu and Yanan is going to win this fight, he is dead wrong. At least I would be shocked if she did. I mean, oh God, look at that ratio, 0.3 ratio in Wu Yanan's competition. The average record of a Wu Yanan opponent is 0.75 wins and 2.5 losses. While Silva's, fighting Jillian Robertson, Moroz, De La Rosa, Fioro, much, much better UFC level competition than Yanan has fought. She'll be the more powerful striker. She'll be the more dangerous grappler. She's really just going to be better everywhere. I think when Nan Yu will be shown the door after this 4th straight stench performance that she's going to put out here. So yeah, Mayra Bueno Silva showing Yanan Wu the door, and probably doing it by decision.
Yeah, we see that she's a big favorite. She opened up -1. What? She opened up as a -110 pick'em.
I would have loved to have gotten on that.
Immediately went to -300, and she's now -375.
Wow.
Wu opened up as a -110 pick'em and currently sitting at +300. The fight goes The decision -175. The fight doesn't go to decision is +135. Over 2.5 -200. Under 2.5 is +160. I don't really see any way to really play this outside of if you want to do a parlay. I think Silva is an okay parlay piece this week. I'm probably not going to touch this fight, but I think Silva is the rightful favorite. And I think -400 sounds about right.
It kind of does. It's you don't want to lay -400 on women's MMA. I won't be doing that either. But yeah, I just don't see a lot out of Yanan here. This should be Mayra Bueno Silva pretty easily.
Sounds good to me. Let us move on to the next fight. We have 3 more. Next, we have, this is a really good one. Miguel Baeza going against Andre Fialho. We have Baeza, who is 29 years old, 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. Fialho, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach as well. Baeza, he has 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He has a knockout win against Hector Aldana, a knockout win against Matt Brown, a submission win against Takashi Sato, a decision loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio, and then a knockout loss against Chaos Williams. As far as Andre Fialho, he did make his debut on short notice against Michel Pereira and lost by decision. I was actually really impressed with his performance in that fight. He won that first round. It did lose that second and third, kind of as expected. Andre Fialho, this guy has a ton of power in his hands. Knocking out James Vick is not an easy thing to do. Just kidding. It's very easy, but still, it was a very good performance there. And he did knock out Sekulik, who was also in the UFC. He hit him with an elbow and he went right down as well. So this guy has legit power. There are a few problems with Fialho that I do not like, though. The first one is going to be this guy is very, very low volume. He walks forward, he plots forward, but when he lands, he hits very hard. But on top of that, the cardio is very bad as well. It looked better than I expected. I'm not saying it looked good in the Pereira fight, but it looked better than I expected. He was clearly tired after the first round, but he was still coming forward and landing hard shots against Michel Pereira, which is a very tough opponent. But this is a fight where, I think Baeza deserves to be a favorite. I think Baeza wins. I think he's going to be the minute winner, but Fialho has a ton of power and he can definitely change the fight with that power. But you're going to have Baeza, who has those very good leg kicks. I think the leg kicks will be there all day. You have Baeza, who's going to be landing the more volume. You have Baeza, who's very dangerous in his own right. If this fight was to touch the mat, Baeza is a black belt in BJJ. I think Baeza has the better cardio. So I favor Baeza, pretty much everywhere outside of probably pure power because Fialho hits like a truck. Yeah. Outside of, Fialho landing a hard shot, I think this is Baeza's fight to lose. I think he gets it done probably by decision. Fialho is very, very tough. So I like Baeza. I think he's going to be the minute winner. But Fialho, this guy's no joke. This is a guy I was really looking forward to see make his debut. But, they matched him up with some tough opponents thus far. Michel Pereira on short notice is no easy task. And then now Miguel Baeza is definitely no easy task. So I like Baeza, but, this is a fight where if you think Fialho wins, I think the knockout probably going to be something to look at, Weezy.
Yeah, violence in this spot as well. We got 6 combined losses. 3 of them have been inside the distance. And then we've got an 80% finish rate and 10 wins for Baeza. And we've got an 86% finish rate for Fialho here in 14 wins. So that is 12 of 14 wins coming inside the distance, 11 by knockout, 1 by submission. So, both of these guys are savage finishers. Both of these guys have been finished. And the way that they're finishing fights, 79% by KO for Fialho, 70% by KO for Baeza. Well, Baeza's been knocked out once and Fialho's been knocked out twice. So fight ends by KO could be a nice little look here to get even better than fight doesn't go to decision odds. Like you said, Brady, Fialho's got a ton of power, but guess what? So does Miguel Baeza. Miguel Baeza has landed 5 knockdowns in the UFC in 6 fights. He is averaging 1.18 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he is landing a knockdown on 1.62% of the significant strikes that he's landed. 5 knockdowns for, only 1 knockdown against. So Baeza has done a really nice job really kind of pimping out that power differential amongst these opponents here. But Fialho is landing 3 significant strikes a minute, absorbing 7.13, showing sub 50% striking defense and only 33% striking accuracy. He was very game against Michel Pereira on short notice. Really made it interesting, and I thought that fight was going to be a little bit more of a blowout than it was. Because one thing that I saw when I taped Fialho was horrible conditioning. I mean, absolutely horrible. Some of the some of the most optically bad conditioning that I've seen in a very long time. Fialho gasses, and he doesn't gas because he's in grappling heavy game plan fights. He will just gas because he throws 100% power into every single strike, and he just doesn't have great conditioning. That being said, he will continue to fight while he is exhausted. So, he's kind of one of those guys that will push through it, and he did in the Pereira fight, but still, the conditioning does need to be mentioned. We've seen this dude death gas before, and that would be a bad thing to do against somebody that's young and coming up like Baeza. But, both of these guys are both below 30 years old. Both of these guys in the one fight for Fialho and in the 6 fights for Baeza, we're talking about 95% of Baeza's fights have taken place at striking range, and 90% of Fialho's debut take place at striking range. So it's going to be a great striking battle. I don't particularly foresee either of these guys trying to win minutes on the ground here. I think that this is going to be a stand-up war. I think fight ends by KO is a fantastic look for this particular fight. Fight doesn't go to decision as well. And I'm going to go with Baeza here. I think he's a prospect with more upside here. I think he's a more complete mixed martial artist.
Yep, I like Baeza myself. We see that Baeza opened up as a -140 favorite. He's now -170. The over set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is -105. The under 2.5 is -125. The fight goes to decision, +100. The fight doesn't go to decision is -140. Yeah, I don't hate a violence look here. Any thoughts on the line or fight goes or doesn't go?
Yeah, I just like that. What's the fight doesn't go?
-140.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think that that's a pretty good look here because these guys have got both got sick power.
Yeah, both guys are very, very dangerous.
And they've both been knocked out too.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that should be a fun one there. We'll keep moving on. We now have the co-main event, and we have Caio Borralho going against Omar Gadziev. We have Caio, who is 29 years old, 5'10" with a 75-inch reach. Ghazi, he is 29 years old, 6'1" with a 71-inch reach. It's going to be Caio, who's going to be at a 3-inch height disadvantage, but he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here. Caio has been on the Contender Series twice. He got that decision win against Aaron Jeffrey. Did not get the contract, but he made sure he got the contract in this next fight on the Contender Series with a knockout win against Jesse Murray. A very good win there. As far as Gods, he was on the Contender Series as well. Got a first-round submission. Was it a heel hook, Weezy? I think it was either a heel hook or a
knee bar.
Yeah, it was a knee bar. And I remember watching that fight thinking, what is he doing? Dropping for the knee, but he got it. He got it. Typically, it doesn't work out, but he got it done. So, I mean, this is an interesting fight. I'm curious to know why they matched up, two prospects together, but they did it with Caio. This guy's very well-rounded. I love his striking. I think he's probably going to have the striking advantage here. He's also a judo black belt, I believe, and then also a BJJ black belt, which is something important to mention. As far as, Godzi, I was able to watch a good amount of fights, but, mostly in his fights, what you see is just him taking down opponents, rinse and repeat. His wrestling does look really good, and he did look good on the Contender Series. I don't know a ton about him, but from what I see, he does look really good in terms of getting his opponents down and keeping them there. And then also does look very dangerous. But I guess, I haven't seen a ton in terms of the takedown defense of Caio Borralho here. I've seen him stuff a takedown here or there, but if he can stuff takedowns here, keep it on the feet, I think he'll have success. But I'm curious to see what happens if Godzi does get down Caio in this fight. So yeah, kind of a really good fight. Great co-main event, but it seems like a really close fight on paper here, Weezy.
Yeah, I mean, so very interesting situation here because it's a prospect versus prospect matchup here. And both of these guys are making their UFC debut. But despite that fact, this is the co-main event. And I mean, I think it speaks to what the UFC thinks of both of these guys. I think that both of these guys are the type of Contender Series prospects that are going to really break through and win a lot of fights here in the UFC. They're both well-rounded. I like Caio's striking. I like Godzi's striking. Godzi is constantly switching stances on the feet. Caio throws that straight left hand right down the pipe, and he's got a ton of power with it. Both of these guys get takedowns. When they get the takedowns, they get control time, and they're looking to finish the fight. Caio even more so than Godzi, I would say, from what I've seen on the regional scene from Godzi. But this one, I don't know who's going to win this fight. I mean, I watched tape, basically all the available tape on both of these guys today. And I mean, I just loved everything that I saw from both of them. Power, slick striking, great wrestling, great top control, working to finish fights once they get to the ground and pound or submissions, advancing position. Both of these guys are doing that. In terms of the level of competition, I think Kyle might have a slight edge here in that he fought 2 contender series level competition, and then the win over Wildemar Santos was a decent prospect. Godzi was fighting not quite like he had one fight in ACB that I saw, but then a lot of them were some other regional scene competition. I think that this guy is actually doing some training in France as well with the MMA Factory guys, and I think that maybe was where he was training for the Janzi Silva fight. So this is 2 high-level prospects here, both of them under the age of 30, both of them making their UFC debut, both of them well-rounded, both of them with a lot of power, slick striking. Where do they have the line for this one?
So it looks like they have, Godzi is -140. He opened up -150. And then Kyle opened up +130. He's now +120. So fairly close, but they do have Godzi as the very slight favorite.
Okay. Yeah. Well, man, this is a hell of a fight. I think that both of these guys have got a really high ceiling in terms of being able to achieve and win multiple fights at the UFC level. Love their skill sets. They're both young for the division. I can't wait for this fight, man. Which way are you leaning?
I don't know. It's a close fight. It really is a close fight. I love what I saw in terms of the wrestling of Godzi. I feel like he should be able to get takedowns here, but I also like the well-roundedness of Kyle. Like Kyle is no like bum or slouch on the mat by any means. He looks like he has good takedown defense. It's a close fight. I think I would like probably edge Kyle at this point at plus money. I don't think I'm going to bet this one, but I think I would lean with that +120 of Kyle. I mean, the striking he showed has been very good. He's shown a lot of power. I don't know how he did not knock out what's his face? What was Aaron Jeffrey? He hit Jeffrey with a ton of shots. Jeffrey's just really tough. And then he knocked out Murray as well. So I think I would lean with the dog and Kyle at this point, but it's a close fight. I like what I see from both guys quite a bit.
Me too. Me too. I can't wait to see these guys fight somebody else. But in the meantime, I think this is a great co-main event. 2 really great prospects, 2 really well-rounded prospects with finishing power. I can't wait for this one. I'm going to lean Kyle. I loved what I saw on the regional scene footage from Kyle.
Yeah, but see, I like this matchup so much, but I wish they would have like built these guys up because I like them a lot. So it's one of those we've seen them happen before. But yeah, great co-main event. I mean, both guys making their debut co-main event. I like it. The fight goes to decision +115. The fight doesn't go to decision is -155. Any strong take on the fight goes or doesn't go?
Yeah. I mean, fight doesn't go as -155, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that feels like it's priced perfectly. I don't think I'd pay that, and I wouldn't be on the fight goes either.
Sounds good to me. So we will move on to the main event. I want to remind you guys that me and Weezy will be live on the MMA Engine YouTube channel tomorrow evening, breaking down the main event, talking about it from a betting perspective, and talking throughout the chat. So check us out on the MMA Engine when we do that. But we have Belal Muhammad going against Vicente Luque 2. We have Luque, who is 30 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. Muhammad, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Luque is going to be 3 years younger, and he's also going to have a 3-inch reach advantage as well. Luque, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He lost a decision to Stephen Thompson a couple fights back, bounced back with a knockout win against Nico Price, a knockout win against Randy Brown, a submission win against Tyron Woodley, and a submission win against Michael Chiesa. As far as Belal Muhammad, he is 4-0-1 no contest in his last 5 fights, a decision win against Lyman Good, a decision win against Diego Lima, no contest against Leon Edwards, a decision win against Damian Maia, and then most recently a decision win against Stephen Thompson. I cannot wait for this fight. Vicente Luque, one of my favorite fighters. I like the guy's style. You will never, ever, ever see a boring Vicente Luque fight. Unless Belal Muhammad wins this fight, then it'll be boring, but you will never see this guy in a boring fight. This guy, gets into wars, and I like him a lot. He's well-rounded. He's a black belt, multiple submissions on his record, but I like the power, and it should be a good one here. So it's a striker versus a wrestler here. Belal Muhammad, I think he could strike with Luque, but that's not going to be the game plan here. I think he's going to have to take down Luque, rinse and repeat, control him like he did for Stephen Thompson, but do that for 5 rounds. But it's kind of tricky, right? Because Luque is dangerous anywhere the fight goes. He has multiple submissions. He's dangerous off his back. And then on the feet, he's very, very dangerous. So, we have a wrestler versus striker. I think Muhammad can have some success in the striking, but a little risky there, Weezy.
It is, man. We got Luque 3 years younger, 3-inch reach advantage. He's got 5 more pro fights. He's been a pro for about 3 years longer than Belal, but Belal has been a little bit busier as a pro. 2 more UFC level fights, but Belal's got, about 50 more minutes in the pro cage and about almost 60 more minutes in the UFC cage, because the average fight time in the UFC for Muhammad has been 13.19 minutes, but it's been 8.25 for Luque. So Luque, obviously the better finisher here, as he's finished, it looks like 93% of his 14 wins in the UFC have been inside the distance. That's nuts. I mean, that's 13 of his 14 UFC wins inside the distance, and then 90% of those 21 wins coming inside the distance as a pro. So that's 19 of 21 wins coming inside the distance. So Luque has been finished in 2 of his 7 losses, and Muhammad has been finished in 1 of his 3 losses. So only 3 of the combined 10 losses for these gentlemen have been inside the distance. So they're both very durable. Great striking metrics for both guys, but it's Muhammad who shows the efficiency when it comes to the striking and the grappling metrics here. So it's going to be Luque who shows the power, though. I mean, Vicente Luque has 10 knockdowns, Brady. 10 UFC knockdowns in 17 fights, landing a knockdown on 1.26% of the significant strikes that he lands. He's averaging more than 1 knockdown per 15 minutes. And he's only been knocked down twice. So for every 1 knockdown, or for every 5 knockdowns Luque gets, his opponents only knock him down once. So a lot of power, a lot of durability for Luque here. But look, Muhammad is landing almost 1 more significant strike a minute than he absorbs. He throws more volume than his opponents, while Luque throws less volume than his opponents. Muhammad is more defensively responsible at striking defense, just below 60%. But he has been knocked down 5 times in 6 times in 714 significant strikes absorbed. And he's never knocked anybody down. So Muhammad might be more efficient on the feet, but absolutely Luque is going to be the better moment winner on the feet, as he has more power, despite the fact that he throws less volume here. So, it'll probably be really close on the feet until Luque lands a big shot, but he's the one that's got the power. He's the one that's gonna land the big shot here. And then when we look at the grappling, Luque averages less than 1 takedown attempt per fight. He's gotten 0.64 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's been in control time positions about 32% of his fights, but Belal Muhammad has shot 87 takedowns in 15 fights. So this is a guy who, if he feels like he's at a deficit on the feet, he will go to the wrestling to win minutes. Belal Muhammad knows how to win fights. All right. He's put together his skill set. He's got great game plans. He fights to his strengths and to his opponent's weaknesses, and he finds ways to crack your armor. He finds ways to make you uncomfortable. He's a fucking master at it. 14 fights without the no contest against Leon Edwards, and this guy's won 11 of them. And the average record of the guy who beats Belal Muhammad is 8.67 UFC wins and 3.33 UFC losses, 2.6 ratio. So, Luque will be the guy that'll be doing the flashier stuff, but there's really nothing flashy about what Belal does. But when you look at that UFC record, that's flashy, dude. 11-3 at this level with the kind of competition that he's been fighting. Both of these guys are very good. Luque's more dangerous. Muhammad's a lot more controlled and well thought out as how he goes about his business. This is an interesting clash of styles. and I think it's going to be a very close fight.
It could be close. It should be really close up until Luque potentially knocks him out here. Like I think the minute winner is probably going to be Belal, right? I think he can mix in takedowns. I think on the feet he could have success. Like Luque is very very hittable. He relies on his chin a lot. So Muhammad probably can even win minutes on the feet just by throwing more volume. But the harder shots are going to be coming from Luque. You take a look at Muhammad when he has lost. He's been knocked down a ton. Jeff Neal knocked him down twice. Vicente Luque knocked him down when he knocked him out back when they fought in 2016. And then Alan Jaban knocked him down 3 times in a loss. So when Muhammad is losing, he is getting knocked down. So what do you think Muhammad's path to victory here is, Weezy? Do you think he's going to come out here and, test his striking like he did back in 2016? Do you think he's going to mix in takedowns, or do you think it's going to be like a Stephen Thompson performance where he went out there and controlled Thompson for 12 minutes? What do you think the game plan of Muhammad's going to be?
I think he's going to weaponize that cardio like he always does, mix in the wrestling, out volume his opponent, and march forward. I don't think he wants to let Vicente Luque get those feet planted, because when he does, he can knock you down and he can knock you out. So I think Belal is going to do what he always does, which is walk forward, weaponize that cardio, drown you in volume, and push a pace that could potentially break you late in the fight. But more importantly, he's going to be very cognizant about how he can win minutes against Vicente here. And I think that that's the way he always does, just walking forward, making it dirty, and mixing in that wrestling. 25% control time for Belal Muhammad, only 5% control time allowed. So this guy is very good. 30% of his fights are taking place in control time positions, and he's winning 5 out of those 6 seconds. So you've got to like that.
Yeah, for sure. B in the chat saying, did Belal not beat? Did Wonderboy not beat Belal? Did Stephen Thompson beat Belal?
No, Belal beat Wonderboy.
You're thinking of Luque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely. Belal worked Stephen Thompson. He absolutely, put him on his ass all 3 rounds and won an easy fight.
Yeah. We'll take a look at the line here, and Luque opened up -210. He's now -157, and Belal Muhammad opened up +180. He's now +137. So the money has came in on Muhammad recently. The fight goes to decision is -110. The fight doesn't go is -130. I think if there is a finish in this fight, it's going to be from Luque. I think if it goes to decision, it's probably going to be Muhammad. Do you agree with that, or do you see it going another way, Weezy?
Yeah, that's the way I feel. I don't think you really need to play the time props in this one, because if it goes the distance, it might be a Muhammad victory, and if it finishes inside the different distance, it's probably Luque.
Yeah, like I think if you like Luque, bet him inside the distance, right? Like his only decision win inside the UFC was against Mike Perry, which that was a very close fight. Other than that, he multiple submissions, tons of knockouts. This guy's a ton of power. But if you like Belal Muhammad, you bet him by decision, because you're not finishing Vicente Luque. You wouldn't think. And on top of that, Belal Muhammad only has 2 finishes in the UFC: Takashi Sato and Augusto Montano there. So, I think that's a decent way to play it. And then I'm going to be taking a look at maybe like the finish only for Luque and like the decision only even for Muhammad. Maybe those have some value. I did miss out on one last week. I'm going to be, looking for that one this week.
Yeah. This is a great main event. It's a clash of styles. We're going to see if Muhammad's minute-winning style will be better than Luque's moment-winning, flashy, finishing fights type of style here. God, I got a feeling Belal is going to get the job done here. I think I'm going to pick him to win this fight. But, man, this is such a high-level fight. I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, I can't wait as well. I'm actually going to go with the Luque. I'm going to take Luque to take Muhammad's head off, but I do respect the pick there, because Muhammad's going to be the minute winner. But I think Luque at some point lands a hard shot. He has 25 minutes to do it. 25 minutes is a long time to be in the cage with a savage in Vicente Luque. This guy is no joke whatsoever.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no quitting in this dude. He was born to fight. He's just that dude. He's got that chin. He'll never quit. And he's looking to finish fights. He's not just one of these dudes that says that. You know, this guy has finished 13 of his 14 UFC wins. He's coming to fucking kill you. So, yeah, great fight. You know, if there's anybody who can, you know, put a stop to that minute winning style and game planning style and cardio based style of Belal Muhammad, it's a guy with the finishing power and finishing savvy of Vicente Luque. I can't wait for this main event.
I cannot wait for it as well. But yeah, we went through it, all 14 fights there. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Weezy, I know you have a lot going on, more than usual this week. Let everybody know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Yeah, man. So tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, right here again, you can find me on the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'll be stepping in last minute for my man MMA Lock of the Night, who had to go on a trip. So I'm going to be joining Clint for the Die Hard MMA podcast right here tomorrow. On Tuesday night on my channel, you can find me doing Just the Tip. That is my full card breakdown for this UFC Vegas 51 card. We'll break down all 14 fights from a statistical perspective and tape study perspective. And as always, we'll finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And I am on a heater and actually picked Alexei Oleinik at plus money to shave ass this last weekend, and he got it done via first round submission. So make sure don't miss that. You can find me on the MMA Engine YouTube channel on Monday night doing a balls deep breakdown. On Thursday night doing the new prop ability show with Brady, which we think is going to be one of the most interesting and innovative new shows on YouTube to find data-based value in these over-under lines and fight goes and fight doesn't go lines. Yeah, I am going to have an extremely busy week, but that's what I do, man. We put in the work here. We try to create the best content for you guys. Thank each and every one of you guys for spending your Sunday night on Pub Sports Radio with us. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 51. God bless each and every one of you.
Let's do it. So yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown prediction video should be out sometime tomorrow. And like Weezy said, you can follow us on the MMA Engine channel, doing a lot of content over there. The main event deep dive tomorrow on Monday, and then also the new prop show. And then here on Pub Sports Radio, we're going to go back live Wednesday for the DFS show. Cannot wait to talk about that. But yeah, guys, that is about it. Leave a like on your way out. Looks like we have 95 likes. We need 5 more for 100. Let's see if we can hit that 100 mark by the time we get out of here. Mushroom saying, where can I find the probability? It's on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. We'll be going live on Thursday. So come check us out there. Thank you all for hanging out. Leave a like, subscribe. Best of luck. UFC Vegas 51.